Sup guys, welcome to another episode of Muslim Point of View. And let's just start with our Dumbo of the Week. For this week's Dumbo of the Week, we have Aung San Suu Kyi, the current leader of Myanmar. Now for those of you who aren't aware of what's going on in Burma, there's a systematic killing being done by the Buddhists to the Muslims that live there, where some Buddhists are burning Muslims' homes and raping some other women and killing the rest of the men. Now the reason why she refuses to deal with these issues that are happening in Burma is because she doesn't treat the Rohingya Muslims as actual citizens of Burma or Myanmar. A little bit like Trump, she believes that they're illegal aliens. Now for a woman who's spent so many years under house arrest fighting for democracy, isn't that a little bit hypocritical? I mean, why isn't she fighting for the rights of the minorities like she used to be? And the thing that angers me the most about this is that she's a Nobel Prize winner. For someone who's literally turning a blind eye to genocide, might as well nominate someone like Hitler for the Nobel Peace Prize. Oh wait, that actually happened. And this is what I was talking about last week with regards to leaders being accountable for how they deal with the people and the minorities in their own countries. If you're not dealing with it, then you're supporting the inevitable outcome. It's as if she's in a car and she's about to get into a car crash and all of a sudden she decides, you know what, I'm just gonna close my eyes, and poof, everything disappears. All of a sudden, no more car crash, no more danger, all of a sudden you're in the Bahamas drinking some pina coladas. And this just goes to show how much of a phony prize this Nobel Peace Prize really is. I mean, if you really think about it, it's a prize that's given to people that can market themselves as good people while doing all sorts of bad things that people don't know about. But enough of that, and let's jump into our BAWS of the week. And for this week's BAWS of the week, we have to give credit to this man, this president, Mr. Obama. Just this week, Obama decided to say no more to the North Dakota pipeline. They finally agreed to reroute this pipeline access to a different area so that the First Nations people are no longer in danger. What's so sad about this is already there are a whole bunch of different comments and people that are going to be so outraged about this decision. Think about Americans, that they're so entitled sometimes that some of them will be outraged at any decision that doesn't go their way. Some of them are so furious, saying that the First Nations should just go back to their country. Well, FYI, they are in their country. In fact, maybe we should be the ones going back to our country, right? I mean, the reason why they were afraid with the routing plans to begin with was because it was a potential danger to their drinking water. So when some Americans heard about this story, they were outraged because they thought that it wasn't fair that the First Nations have to have access to poison water and the regular everyday Americans that live in North Dakota didn't have to worry about it anymore. And this brings me to my rant of the week. Sometimes when I read some of these comments on Reddit or on those like news sites, I just get outraged. Some of the first comments always go, well, if you don't like it, then go back to your country. Well, let me tell you this, Mr. American. This wasn't technically your country to begin with. Actually, the First Nations were the first ones to be there. So maybe you should go back to your forefathers' country back in Europe or back in like France or something like that. And the thing that annoys me the most out of all of this is when it comes to immigrants. If you look at Trump and his campaign and all the people that supported his campaign, how racist they are, saying that they want to get rid of every immigrant in the United States if possible. So they try to restrict every access to the immigrants and they try to find ways to kick them out. But then when it comes to them going to different countries and visiting them and bombing their countries and so on and so forth, well, all of a sudden they can do whatever they want. This kind of double standard honestly needs to disappear. It doesn't make sense. There's no logic and it's really just bigotry. So for all the Americans who want to come to Canada, I'm sorry guys, but we're building a wall. Oh yeah, and you're paying for it. And this brings us to our global news, and in this week's global news we have some tragic news. A lot of you guys are aware about the Brazilian soccer players who were boarding a Colombian flight that crashed. The plane was on its way to Medellin with 77 passengers and every single one of them died except for 6. Now this is actually a very sad story because those Brazilian soccer players were actually on their way to play a very important game. Before boarding a flight, the pilot's job is to check the engines and to check whether there's enough fuel to complete the trip. Now it turns out that the pilot didn't actually do any of this on the day of the flight, and this was the reason why the plane crashed in the first place. And this just goes to show you that you can be very healthy and you can be in amazing shape, but death will still find you. Also, our condolences go out to all these players' families and so on, and it's really important to remember not to forget the flight crew as well. Unfortunately, what happens with these kinds of stories is that we pay so much attention to the celebrities and we forget about the average everyday people who actually lost their lives as well. Let's just change the tone a little bit and let's jump into our what of the week. For this week's what moment, we have a story about a thief who decided to steal a bucket of gold. So apparently, gents, we're back in the medieval ages because some people still carry pots of gold. Now apparently there was this man who was walking by a truck where a pot of gold was legitimately just sitting there out in the open. And now this was an armored truck, but the guards weren't there. So he said, you know what, let me try my luck. Now if you literally watch this video, you'll see how he creeps up to the truck, grabs that pot of gold and walks off like if nothing happened. This is the most casual crime that ever happened. And if you watch this video closely, you'll see how a whole bunch of people are just watching this guy and they don't even care about what's going on.
That's right, guys, just another day walk in the park over here with my pot of gold.
Well, nice pot of gold, man. I usually keep mine at home. Some guys just watching the guy being like, oh, is that a pot of gold? No, it's probably just the leprechaun from that movie there. The funniest part of the story is that he actually got away with it and he's supposedly running out somewhere in Florida. Most robbers get caught stealing like a few dimes from a bank. Now this guy ran away with $1.6 million worth of gold. I shouldn't be saying this, but I mean that's pretty impressive. Now for our Lol of the Week segment, we have a story about a man who punched a kangaroo. That's right guys, you heard it right. A man punched a kangaroo. I mean, I've heard of chicken fights before and like the UFC and maybe WWE and so on, but I've never heard of a man and a kangaroo go one-on-one against each other. This kind of story just pops a light bulb. I actually want to create a promotion called the Kangaroo Fighting Championship. Oh wait, KFC already exists. Now we're going to show you a clip of that video. Supposedly what happened is that a man saw a kangaroo putting his dog in a headlock and decided to fight back. Now luckily he landed a right jab and that kangaroo ran away. It would be hilarious if someone made a commentary video about this, like if it was happening in the WWE or something.
I swear to God, that'll stop your heart!
Now that's all the news that we have for this week. If you like this video, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And as always, don't forget to keep it halal. Guys, once again, check out these awesome shirts that we made for you guys. And see you next week on A Muslim's Point of View.